Foreign nationals remain stuck at Gaza's border crossing at Rafah. Egypt says it's too dangerous now to reopen the border after Israeli airstrikes.
Ukraine prepares for winter as Moscow accuses Kyiv of launching 27 drones in an overnight attack on western Russia.
As episodes of acute water scarcity become ever more frequent across the world, what does this mean for Europe?
At the Rafah border crossing with Egypt, these families with international passports are desperate to get out of Gaza and reach safety. But for now it's closed. Egypt says airstrikes by Israel near the crossing make it too dangerous to open, and truckloads of humanitarian aid remain backed up on the Egyptian side.
والله أنا بناتي عملوا تنسيق مع وزارة الخارجية في ألمانيا على أساس إنه أطلع، قالوا لي يا ماما أطلع من 12 ل5، وللأسف أجينا لقينا كله مسكر. يعني ليه بيضحكوا على العالم وبقولوا كذا وكذا وكذا وما في؟ على القليل يساعدوا الناس يطلعوا، إحنا مش شاردين من أي مكان، إحنا بس بدنا نطلع.
جينا نزير لأهلنا لنا شهرين، قامت الحرب هذا علينا، ضيعونا مع شوية فلوس طارن. لا مية ولا أكل ولا شرب ولا تليفون ولا نت ولا أي حاجة.
يعني الواحد بعد ما شاف الوضع في غزة إيش أقول لك، يعني البيوت بتتهدم وناس بتموت والحمد لله رب العالمين طلعنا منها بخير. طبعا أنا مسافرة وروح قلبي وعمال يعني إن شاء الله عمر ما حد يدوق أهلنا وبيوتنا ومالنا ولبسنا وغراضنا وما تأخذنا عفشنا وأساسنا، ولكن كله بعد فيش له قيمة بالإنسان، الإنسان نفسه إنه يسلم بدوش إلا راسه تسلم وبس.
As the humanitarian situation worsens in Gaza, Egypt is coming under more and more pressure to open the crossing. But Cairo says it already hosts 9 million refugees and it can't let in large numbers of Palestinians.
The European Commission has announced that it will triple its financial humanitarian aid to Gaza from 25 to 75 million euros. Its President Ursula von der Leyen stressed that the Commission supports Israel's fight against Hamas after its surprise assault last week, but that it will also work to support innocent civilians in Gaza. Egypt, Turkey and the United Arab Emirates have sent supplies to be delivered to Gaza as an aid envoy is set to head to the Rafah border crossing between Egypt and the Palestinian enclave.
فيش ميه ولا في اي لا ميه للشرب ولا ميه مالحه تتحمم ولا اي شيء ولا كهرب ولا اي مقومات للحياه، الوضع صعب للغايه يعني.
Israel has completely shut off all water, electricity and fuel supplies to Gaza from its side of the border, and airstrikes have hit the Palestinian side of the Rafah border crossing, forcing it to temporarily stop operating.
Winter is approaching in Ukraine, and although fighting will slow down, people will then have to endure the cold. Last winter, millions of Ukrainians were at times left without either heat or light after Russian airstrikes hit power stations. But the state energy company says it now has enough energy to keep people and their homes warm.
We are being prepared for the next winter to come. We have accumulated appropriate volume of natural gas, and we have prepared necessary measures to react in emergency cases.
Meanwhile, Russia's defense ministry claimed that Ukraine launched 27 drones in an overnight attack on western Russia. Officials claim that 18 drones were shot down over the Kursk region. Ukrainian officials have never acknowledged responsibility for attacks on Russian territory.
A 6.3 magnitude earthquake has struck western Afghanistan on Sunday, just over a week after previous shakes and aftershocks killed thousands of people and flattened entire villages in the same region. The US Geological Survey said the latest quake's epicenter was about 34 kilometers outside Herat, the provincial capital, and 8 kilometers below the Earth's surface. So far, one person has been reported dead and around 150 others injured, officials said, but that number may rise.
As global temperatures continue to rise, droughts and water scarcity are no longer a rarity in Europe. 30% of the European population is already affected, with the UN focusing its World Food Day on water. In the coming decades, the situation is set to get worse and the agricultural industry hit hard.
Some of the food products cannot be produced anymore in southern parts of Europe because it's getting too hot.
People think that UK is a rainy country, but actually we've been experiencing drought as well. And places like this provide important agriculture for us.
The world's growing population predicted to reach 8.5 billion by 2030 and a rising middle class are fueling the strain.
People in general, they are getting richer, and when people are richer, they are using more resources, not only water resources, but also land, and they eat more, they have more variety in their diet.
And other industries, such as the energy sector, are also set to be impacted.
As we move into a net zero era, a clean energy era, we're moving towards things like hydropower for sure. But if we have less water in our rivers, it means that we won't be able to rely on hydropower. And actually, we're turning to coal and gas, things that we consider dirty, still has to be in place if we are going to meet our energy demands.
In 2000, Europe introduced the Water Framework Directive to protect water resources across Europe. However, there is still a long way to go.
The measures that we are implementing needs to be a little bit accelerated at different scales, at the local level, at the country level, at the EU level, so that the level of preparedness towards these uncertainties will also be improved.
In 2006, Sabine was unaware that she was pregnant while using glyphosate in her line of work. Little did she know this potent herbicide would leave an indelible mark on her life.
Chaque année, dans le cadre de mon travail d'organisatrice de randonnée à cheval, je devais passer un désherbant à base de glyphosate sur notre carrière d'équitation. C'est un espace en sable d'à peu près 700 mètres carrés. Et à chaque passage, ça me prenait plusieurs jours. Et c'est le moment où Théo a été dans mon ventre, c'était le début de ma grossesse, et c'est le moment où les organes, l'œsophage, la trachée qui ont été mal formés chez Théo.
In 2018, Sabine took Monsanto, the company that markets the pesticide globally, to court. The connection between glyphosate and Theo's malformations was recognised and the family received compensation. A victory indeed, but one that cannot erase years of suffering.
Il a des malformations de l'œsophage, de la trachée, du larynx. C'est un syndrome polymalformatif, donc il y a un ensemble de malformations qui ont nécessité beaucoup d'opérations. Il a eu un total de 54 opérations.
The European Commission is considering renewing glyphosate's authorisation for 10 years and a vote scheduled for Friday, October the 13th. The herbicide is deemed to have no critical area of concern, according to a report by the European Food Safety Authority, a conclusion challenged by NGOs.
ECHO and EFSA, we believe, downplay the existing evidence from animal studies and from epidemiological studies on the evidence of glyphosate that may cause DNA damage in certain organisms. And this indicates the potential of glyphosate to cause cancer. So we believe that glyphosate should be classified as carcinogenic. There are a lot of studies showing that glyphosate exposure can be linked both to autism in children and to Parkinson's disease.
Sabine is now making an impassioned plea to members of the European Parliament.
Ce que je voudrais leur dire, c'est de sortir le nez des chiffres, de sortir le nez des bilans économiques et des statistiques, de se dire que derrière les statistiques, il y a réellement des victimes. S'ils prennent la décision de maintenir le glyphosate sur le marché européen, ils prennent la décision qu'il y aura ces victimes. Ils seront responsables de ces souffrances et de ces futures victimes.
An 8,500-year-old palafite settlement has been discovered in Albania. It's believed to be the oldest in Europe. It was found after a 4-year-long excavation in Lake Ohrid by Albanian archaeologists working with their counterparts from the University of Bern.
According to the carbon-12 data, this settlement belongs to the early Neolithic period, so it's around 5,800 years before the birth of Christ. So it's 6,800 years old, which makes it so far the oldest Paleolithic settlement found in Europe.
The settlement is said to have been home to between 200 to 500 people who lived in houses built on stilts.
In fact, it shows that civilization or better the settlements are really old in Europe, because so far the oldest settlements have been dated in small Asia and also Africa, and Europe was a bit late with datings. But now this shows that people have also been here, have been farming, have been creating their lives here, and it's earlier than we thought. So this is very important for the history of Europe.
Samples of the findings are now being analyzed at the University of Oxford and are expected to provide important answers about the way people lived 8,000 years ago in Europe. In Lina, Albania, for Euronews, Borjan Jovanovski.
More than 100 hot air balloons carrying pilots from Brazil, Australia, France and other countries take off in New Mexico for Albuquerque's annual International Balloon Fiesta. According to organisers, this is the largest ballooning event on Earth, attracting more than 500 balloons and their crews from all over the world. This year's event will be crowned with the Ring of Fire solar eclipse, which will be visible on Saturday from the ballooning grounds.